Greetings, Neo-Swedenborgians, and welcome to Out of the Blue B, number 0188. I basically feel like I have been given a gift, and I would like to share this gift, and the gift is one little idea, one little connection, and I guess I'll just tell you the long story. The long version, look what I found. The long version is I used to live in the magic shop at 5082 North Lincoln Avenue, Magic Incorporated, and it was owned by my grandfather and step-grandmother. My grandfather is J. Marshall, the magician, and my step-grandmother was Frances Ireland Marshall, also a magician, and she ran the business, and he was sort of the star of the business, but he did not really run the business. He was more the face of the business. Well, in 1967, they moved to that location, 5082 North Lincoln, in 1963. 1967, which is the year I was born, there was a blizzard. In the blizzard of 1967, Francis's brother Johnny couldn't get home because of the blizzard. So he came to the magic shop and he asked his sister Frances if he could spend the night, and she said yeah. And when I moved in 2002, he was still there. And Johnny was a guy like a lot of men in his generation, I think, who he didn't know how to clean up after himself. And so Johnny's room this is the long version, but Johnny got a newspaper, Tribune, every day. And he lived in this room up in the library. There was two libraries in the building. The magic library, which was kind of small, like just two rooms. And there was the general library, which was like a large warehouse. And Johnny, at that time, at first, he lived off this room to the side of the of the general library. He had a room off the side of the library, the general library. And he got a newspaper every single day. And he never threw them away. And he filled up this room. This room was probably maybe 16 by 14. He filled it with old newspapers to the point where he had to move out of the room. And he moved out of the room off the library, and he moved into the library. So when I lived there, he had a bed in the library. And this side room was packed 8 feet high with old newspapers, because he had actually cluttered himself out of this room some years ago. So it was newspapers from the 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. Old, brittle, dry newspapers. And by and by, after Jay died, Johnny moved out. And it was our job, or it came down to my job, to clean up this room. And I took a snow shovel, started shoveling all this old newspaper out of this room, out the second story window, and down into the dumpster. So this went on for a couple of days. This room, you have to picture a large room full of dry newspaper. And I just started with a shovel, and I went all the way down the room until I got to the back corner of the room. And in the back corner of the room, this is it, the magic shop, there was two things. for some reason, there was a gallon glass jar, a big gallon of kerosene. So underneath this pile of brittle old newspapers was a gallon of kerosene and a book, or there was actually two books. There was Intercourse by Hewat McKenzie, and there was Intra Muros by Rebecca Springer. And I started reading Intercourse, and if you look at Out of the Blue number 1, 0001, I read from Intercourse. And so this is kind of a visual metaphor for the idea that I think this is an explosive concept. I think that this picture of a room full of old newspaper with a gallon of kerosene in the corner is symbolic of the fact that this is an explosive idea. So I started reading Intercourse, and it's very interesting at times. Hewat McKenzie seems either naive or gullible, or I can't tell if he's gullible or if he's trying to deceive. But either way, he's either duplicitous or he is gullible, or both. Either way, this book has a map, and it's a map of the spirit lands. And as I've said, it's in miles. So that was about 2007 when I first found the book. And then in 2019, for the 50th anniversary of the moon landings, I started reading about the moon landings, or learning about the moon landings, and I learned about the Van Allen belts, which I hadn't heard of before. And I think a lot of people haven't heard of it. This is the problem I'm running into, because what I'm saying is that the Van Allen belts are the spirit lands, and the problem is that nobody knows about the Van Allen belts and nobody knows about the spirit lands, and the people who do know about both of them, the people who do know about one don't know about the other. The mystical spiritualist types who know about the spirit lands are not often the scientific types who would know about the Van Allen belts, and the scientific types who know about the Van Allen belts are not interested in the mysticism. But when I started learning about the Van Allen belts, and I read the Wikipedia on the Van Allen belts, and in the Wikipedia, I'll link it below, says that they are approximately 36,000 miles. The outer edge is approximately 36,000 miles from the surface of the Earth. And then that sounded familiar, and I go pick up the Hewat McKenzie book, and he says in 1916, which is 42 years before the Van Allen belts were even discovered, he says the outer edge is 35,580 miles above the surface of the Earth. And my basic point is that 35,580 is approximately 36,000. So they're basically saying the same thing. And this to me is the explosive idea which is at the heart of all this. And it's like a gift. It's like I've been given the gifts. I'm the one guy in this place and time and history to see these two things. That's my gift. That's the gift that I received, and that's the gift I'm trying to share. But whenever I do one of these videos on Neo-Swedenborgianism, I hardly get any hits. I get 12 hits. One's DJ Mondo, one's my brother, one's my mother, and then there's 7 other people. And so that's it for now. And so I'm gonna do some fiddling.